All right, so we're gonna find the derivative of y with respect to x of the equation 4 cosine of x sine of y is equal to 1. Now, this is going to involve that we use implicit differentiation because we can't explicitly solve for one variable in terms of the other. Usually we solve for y in terms of x. So in other words, we would have y equals, something where you only have x terms on the right. But this equation, you can't really do that. So we're gonna go through implicit differentiation. And the one thing that you're gonna use a lot in implicit differentiation is chain rule, but also all the other ones. So make sure you really know like power rule, product rule, quotient rule, and of course your chain rule. Now, when we're dealing with trig functions, I really recommend that you write the input in parentheses. A lot of textbooks will just have the trig functions written like this. But what I mean is rewrite it like, so this is the same as 4 cosine of x, I put the x in parentheses, times sine of y, and I put the y in parentheses. And all that will be equal to, I'm going to put the 1 on this side, equal to 1. I like doing that because I think it really helps emphasize what you're taking the cosine of or the sine of. And it's useful, especially when you got to use chain rule. All right, so so this is an example where we got to use product rule. So because you see you have one function, we're going to call this our f, function in black, times another function, and we're going to call it a g. So a reminder of when you're taking the derivative of a function times another function, so the derivative of f times g will be equal to the derivative of f times g plus f times the derivative of g. So for this, we're going to take the derivative of the cosine of x first. And let's just factor out this 4 right now because that is going to be easier to deal with later. So we take the derivative of cosine of x, so that'll be negative sine of x. And then from that, we just multiply by g. So this is your f, or this is your f prime. And we multiply by g, so times sine of x, or sine of y, whoops, sine of y. And to that, we're going to add f. So just rewrite cosine of x. That's your f. And we're going to multiply that by g prime. So we're going to multiply that by the derivative of the sine of y, and that'll be the cosine of y. Now here, when you take the derivative of a term with y, we're going to need to multiply this by dy dx. So I'm going to multiply this part by dy dx. And all of that, and all grouped together, all that is equal to the derivative of 1 on the right side. So the derivative of 1 is just 0. Probably should have made it look a little bit neater, but let's just go with that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and clean up the left side. Let me write it a little more organized. And let's distribute that 4. So what we're going to have is negative 4 sine of x times sine of y plus cosine of x times cosine of y. Or sorry, forgot to distribute that 4 again. So plus 4 times that, because then that 4 gets distributed to that. So plus 4 times the cosine of x times the cosine of y. And all of this term right here, let me put that in a bracket in brackets. All of that is being multiplied by dy dx. This group right here. Let me erase that f so it doesn't get confusing. And then all of that will then be equal to 0. And then so what we want to do here is solve for dy over dx. And think of it as if you're solving for a variable. Think of it as like it's like a t or something. So what we're going to do is get rid of this by adding it to the right side and then dividing by this. So we're going to add this to the right side first. So what we're going to have on the right side is 4 sine of x times sine of y. So that goes away, that whole group. And on the left side, we're going to have just this. We're going to have we have 4 cosine of x times the cosine of y. All of that multiplied by dy over dx. All of that will be equal to 4 sine of x times sine of y. Now from here, we just divide by this group right here. So then we'll get dy dx. That'll be equal to 4 sine of x times sine of y, all over 4 cosine of x times sine of times cosine of y. And I mean, all you can really cancel out is those 4s, and everything else will just be like that. So your answer will just be sine of x times sine of y over cosine of x times cosine of y. All right, so there you go.